and drunk, and he was in a contented mood, he lay down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came stealthily and lay down, uncovered his feet, and lay down. At midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and there, lying at his feet, was a woman. He said, "Who are you?" She said, "I'm Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak for your servant, for I am the next of kin." He said to her, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. This last instance of your loyalty is better than the first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. Now, my daughter, do not be afraid, for I will do for you all that you have asked. But now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman who is a closer relative than I. Remain this night. In the morning, if he will act as next of kin for you, good, let him do it. If he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then as the Lord lives, I will act as next of kin. Lie down until morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could recognize another, for he said, "It must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Then he said, "Bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out." So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her back. Then he went into the city. She came to her mother-in-law, who said, "How did things go with you, my daughter?" So she told her mother-in-law all that the man had done for her, saying, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said, 'Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" She replied, "Wait, my daughter, until you see how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today."
Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate to sit down, and as he did, the guardian redeemer that he had just been speaking of was walking past. So he said to him, "Come, sit by me," and he did. Then he chose 10 of the elders of the town and said to them, "Sit ye here," and they did. Then Boaz says to the guardian redeemer, "Naomi, who has returned from Moab, is selling a piece of the property that belonged to our relative Elimelech. And I thought that I should suggest it to you today in front of these elders and in front of our people, so that you might redeem it. And if you will do so now. But if not, tell me, so that I may know. For only you and I are able to do so. You are first, and I will be the next in line." The guardian says to him, "I will redeem it." Boaz says, "On the day that you redeem it, you will also acquire Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, to raise up his seed with him, that it may not disappear from its family." The kinsman says at this point, "I cannot redeem it, for I will endanger my own estate if I do so." He said, "You should redeem it for yourself." The custom at this time in Israel for the finalization and legalization of a property transfer was to remove a sandal and give it to the other person in the transaction. So at this point, the kinsman says to Boaz, "You redeem it for yourself," and he removes his sandal and gives it to him. Then Boaz turns to the council of the people at the gate and says, "On this day, I have redeemed from Naomi all of the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon, and I have also acquired Ruth, Mahlon's widow, to become my wife. I will raise up his seed, that his name will not disappear from his family or from his hometown. Ye are my witnesses." And the people at the gate all responded, "We are your witnesses. May this young woman's seed brought into your home be like Rachel and Leah, who raised the family of Israel. And may you have standing in Ephratah and be famous in Bethlehem. May the Lord make your line to be like Perez, who bore Tamar to Judah." At this point, Boaz took Ruth to become his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord blessed her, and she conceived and brought forth a son. The women who lived there said to Naomi, "The Lord be praised, who has given you a guardian redeemer this day. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. May he be famous in Israel, and may he bring you the joy in your old age." Then Naomi took for this your daughter-in-law, who has loved you and was greater to you than 7 sons would have been. has given birth to this child. Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. And the women said, Naomi has a son. And they called him Obed, who was the father of Jesse, who was the father of David.
So the ancestors of Perez were as follows. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram of Amminadab. Amminadab of Nahshon. Nahshon of Salmon. Salmon of Boaz. Boaz of Obed. Obed of Jesse. And Jesse of David. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Thank you. I hope you're giving praise to God. You're not clapping for performance, but giving praise to God. Thank you for that. We wrap up this series on Ruth with these last two chapters. It's sort of the HBO portion of the book with lots of undertones and overtones of what we may refer to as saucy or juicy. Not to name this for what it is would be disingenuous to the Word of God. So we name it, we express it, we move on. The book of Ruth's gritty beginning eventually finds its way to a happy ending, right? Naomi's life moves from bitterness to pleasantness, living up to the meaning of her name. Ruth has found the security of a settled home. The empty wombs of two widows have find fullness in the child of Obed, whom Ruth bears and whom the women of the village set in Naomi's arms, saying, a son has been born to Naomi. The first paragraph that we read in chapter 3 sets the stage. It's about 2 months after the end of chapter 2. That's the duration of the barley and wheat harvest. And Naomi starts hatching a plan. Now, it may read like sort of a nosy mother-in-law type thing that's going on here, but actually, Naomi has the right to find security for Ruth. The plan is bold, and it's not without a certain degree of innuendo. Ruth is to clean up and dress up, and once Boaz lays down for the night, she's to uncover his feet and lie down. Boaz will then tell her what to do. Ruth promises to execute this plan perfectly. She does just that with one major exception. Did you catch that? When Boaz wakes up startled in the middle of the night and finds a woman next to him, Ruth doesn't let Boaz tell her what to do. Instead, she tells Boaz what he is to do. I mean, are we really surprised that a woman was telling a man what to do, even in the biblical times? Seriously. What are our not surprised though. What are our takeaways from the book of Ruth? I think we have to continue to talk about a theme that has pervaded these messages this month, and that is the theme of provision. God provides for God's people, and Boaz is the providing agent in this scenario. First, when Ruth instructs Boaz to spread his cloak over his servant, that might actually have double meaning. The Hebrew word here for cloak is the same word used for wings earlier in the book. Remember in chapter 2, when Boaz blessed Ruth, saying, may the Lord reward you, and may you have a full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. So wings is protection and that type of stuff. Boaz immediately recognizes Ruth's loyalty, not just to him, but also to Naomi. She could have gone on after one of those younger men that were good looking and that Boaz had instructed to stay away from her. She's a Moabite. She doesn't have to follow the rules of the Israelites, but she made that pledge in chapter 1. Your God will be my God. And when she did that, she provided herself loyalty to God. Her loyalty opens the door to God's providence. Think about that for a minute. In exchange for our loyalty to God, we are redeemed and we are provided for. We live in a world where the word loyalty doesn't hold much weight anymore, does it? We see it in politics, we see it in families, we see it at work, we see it at church. Someone once pondered on folks' loyalty to the church in this way. I wish people were as loyal to God on Sunday morning as they are to their favorite college football game on Saturday. It's worth examining our own hearts, isn't it? There's a new large religion in America, and it's called the religion of the nuns, not loyal to anything. That is growing. But what we are called to do is stay loyal to God. So Ruth's loyalty earned her Boaz's provision of comfort and love, but he also met her physical needs. In the morning, he packed up 6 measures of barley. On her own, Ruth was able to glean about half a bushel of wheat, which gave her and Naomi food for about a week. Boaz, however, doubles that. He provides her with enough food for Naomi and Ruth to have for almost a full 2 weeks. And here, I don't know if you picked up on this, we had the first mandate not to show up at your mama's house empty-handed. When Ruth is relaying all the details of how Boaz provided and cared for her, she makes sure to tell Naomi that he would not let her go back to her mother-in-law empty-handed, right? So, see, we Southerners have a biblical reference for just about everything, including not showing up to the Thanksgiving dinner empty-handed, right? The book of Ruth also teaches us about redemption. The Moabite woman who seemed such a liability for Naomi at the beginning of their journey has become the means for her redemption. Robert Williamson puts it this way: for Naomi, who has throughout the text identified security and attachment to a male, the woman's words serve as a reminder that it is ultimately Ruth's commitment to her that has restored her life.